Guys, I've stopped boxing now, I've picked up football, and I've learnt this new skill that I've made myself personally. It's called the Magic Shuffle. Look at that. It's... What? What? I'm just... Okay. I've gotten... Oh! Damn. You know how to do the Magic Shuffle better than me.
I'm good. How was your weekend?
It was great. It was actually... it was a busy week. Meeting up with lots of people, obviously collaborating, a lot of networking and stuff like that. But yeah, pretty hectic week. Obviously went back home, and obviously I'm back now in Sheffield. So yeah,
So one of the reasons why I was so excited to do this interview is because we're both from Northampton.
Yeah.
So when you were from Northampton, what made you want to go into boxing?
So my brother used to box about 6-7 years ago. He didn't do it competitively, but he did it to sort of cut weight. So he's a sporty kind of person. Like he'd jump from sport to sport, he'd go from football to this to this. He ended up finding boxing, and then from there, he got into it. Obviously the training and the sparring, and all that. And then he was already a year into it when I didn't start. Now for me, obviously I was overweight at the time, and obviously I was a lot shorter than I am now. So obviously teasing, bullying and stuff like that comes into play. But it was more over just that sense of respect that I wanted, that I was missing like throughout my life. And when my brother called me, he called me when I was in at the shopping centre at Western Fable. Like literally I was on the way back home from there, obviously like with school and all that. And then he called me, as like, oh, do you want to join me for like one session or whatever? Because he understood that I was overweight or whatever, like he wanted to just push me in that general direction. We didn't think nothing of it at start, but when I went to the session, and then I went to... So the boxing club I went to is NABC, like Northampton ABC, like boxing club. That's when I first started. I met my first coach there, his name was Darren Taylor. Obviously I'm still very close with him now. But yeah, he taught me everything, like every basic move that I know now. Obviously, your fundamentals, your jabs, your crosses, your footwork and all that. He not only taught me that, but he became sort of like a father figure in my life. Obviously, I had my dad at the time was obviously like he was still present there. But when I was at the gym, I was training and all that. Like he'd always pay more attention to me. Reason being is because when I was in there, like I loved it. I loved the confidence that it gave you, obviously the discipline that it installs within you as well. Not only that, like it's fun. Like for me, it was fun. I used to think that boxing was just about two thugs going at it and then just punching each other in the face. But I came to realise that when you bring it from the outside in, just take back, strip apart all those stereotypes, and then what you'll find is like it's pretty much like a game of chess.
It's so organised.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the best way I can explain it is it's like playing chess, but you're underwater. Basically, so you only have 2 minutes, otherwise you're going to die. And
everyone thinks they can do it. Everyone thinks
exactly.
And it's like this with football. It's like I think I can play football, and 5 minutes into it, my legs are gone. And it's like once your legs are gone, they're not moving.
Yeah, no, of course. But yeah, people do think like they can do lots of sports, especially with like football, basketball as well. But they think they can do that. Again, same thing. Like it's everything. When you do it to a certain level, it's going to need you to step up, both athletically and skill based. So yeah, obviously like a couple of years down the line, I started to get a bit better. I started to study the sport a lot more, and then next thing you know, like I just had a love for sport, and then that's where me going into sports science came in. And then yeah.
Where did you go to study it? Did you read books or did you use PDFs?
Is this about boxing or?
Yeah, boxing. So when you went to go study the sports,
so what I mean by that is obviously when you're boxing, obviously you got your normal training, you got your sparring and whatnot, and then you have your what is called film study.
Oh yeah, so when you watch it back.
Yeah, so most boxers don't do it. So they won't actually go back home, or they won't put like a diary of what they did good and bad and stuff like that. And reason being is because that's why you have a lack of skill in the amateurs nowadays, especially in this country.
Yeah.
Because people don't obviously study what they're doing. They don't think twice when they're boxing. They just go off of natural instinct, and that works for some people. But for people like me, who obviously came from someone who's just overweight, obviously, like, I'm fat. I ain't got power either. Like, I can't punch hard. So every bout that I ever won, it came from skill purely. Like, I didn't really sort of outwork someone. I always just sort of was better at hitting and not getting hit, and that obviously just comes from a skill based perspective. But yeah, as long as you're able to obviously hit and not get hit, then pretty much that's the aim of the game. It doesn't matter if you've got a strong punch. It doesn't matter if you got cardio on you, you got a gas tank. You know how big you are, how many abs you got on your belly. You know, if you can hit and not get hit, that's pretty much the aim of it.
And I find this when you said you look back at your videos and you have to be really like intellectually honest with yourself and very critical.
Yeah.
I find, and the more I get older, I find this is that many people, and the reason they won't make it professional is because they don't want to do that. They don't want to be humble and criticise themselves. They'd rather think they're a lot better than what they are, and they'll never go back and watch it. And I think that's the major difference. It's when you see the people at the top, they're really humble, and then when you see people who drop out about 15, 16, it's because they weren't humble enough to be honest with themselves. Yeah,
that's the thing. With boxing, obviously, with the amateurs, you see it most often. Obviously, in the pros, people are a bit more humble now. We've come to an era now where you got Dagestanians or whatever, like even in MMA and stuff like that. They're people that have coming in and obviously dominating the game. And people obviously wonder, okay, well, why are they doing that? It's because they stay humble, this. And then now people just have a more humble demeanour to it.
And I think it's you mainly see people at the top are mainly religious because they're humble, and that's what religion teaches.
Yeah.
And it's when you go to more secular countries, they're not being humble, and the head loss you're seeing as well.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it so much in football now, and it's like there's so much head loss, and sports is really about discipline and teamwork. It's never really about head loss and making it about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't. Well, it is more of about yourself because it is sort of an individual sport. But obviously, yeah, people like you said about the brain injury and all that. People do have to take care of themselves a lot more.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, boxing in and of itself is a dangerous sport. Just like MMA, just like any of these sports, just like rugby, really.
Yeah.
And like American football. And obviously that's where a good nutrition ties into it, but mainly, obviously, getting your skill on point, making sure that when you're in the ring, you've got all your basics down to a T, you've got your defense down to a T, and like you've got obviously not the best cardio, but you've got the best cardio that you can at the time. So then all you've got to worry about, all these like limitations, start getting shorter and shorter.
How would you quantify nutrition? Would you say it's about 70% or 80% important?
I'd say it's about 70%.
70%.
Really, I'd say I think that nutrition is very, very, very underrated within boxing. Anyway, I'm not sure about sport. Like I haven't been involved in too much sport really. I've only just been involved in boxing. But from what I've seen throughout the amateurs and throughout how they cut weight, there hasn't been anywhere near enough emphasis on what they're putting in their bodies and what that effect can obviously cause you when you're in the ring. So like if it's a bad thing, like what you're eating, are you overeating certain things? Are you stocking up too much on carbs, maybe that it starts getting converted to fat? Or like people don't really know about this and stuff like that. And that ties into why I obviously started content creating. Well, that and because I saw a lot of like BS online.
Yeah.
Obviously people just making like outlandish claims about this food heals this, or flipping this diet's the best for every human being. And it's like obviously these guys don't they either do know the basics, but they're choosing to form some sort of agenda that they want to sell, or they don't know anything about nutrition, which is probably even worse.
Yeah, that's even
because they obviously don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, that's one of the main two reasons why I started obviously taking a nutrition route and stuff like that. Because obviously I studied it, I might as well use the degree and use it to obviously better inform people who used to be in my position as well, and obviously get them more prepared for these bouts, so it reduces the risk of getting brain injury, reduces the risk of getting any other injury as well. Obviously, like shoulder injuries are more prevalent within boxing. Not really sure so much at MMA, but for boxing, definitely if you're using your upper body, then yeah.
I mean this with all seriousness as well. Like when I absolutely love watching your content on Instagram, because I think there's two people that I really like when it comes to nutrition. Someone on TikTok, I can't remember his name. It just like stick figure drawings, and it would be like He'll show you how to cook it, and you're one of the only people I've seen who shows you how to cook it as you're going along. And when I'm watching other nutrition like programs, they'll always be very niche about the details. And for someone who doesn't know anything about nutrition, it's like intimidating to watch, because I'm like, what's 300 milligrams? Am I doing too much? Am I doing too less? Am I going to give myself food poisoning? With you, it's like, it's just straightforward. It's less than a minute long, which is what content needs to be now, because the shorter the content, the more people are going to view it, and it's so good.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, it's good to hear the positive feedback for it, because it knows I'm going at the right path. With like cooking as well, I get what you mean, because I used to be the same as well. When you're competing as an athlete, especially an athlete that's in a weight making sport like boxing, every single measurement has to be precise. And because I was so used to just weighing everything out, I just thought it was a good idea. Like, it was easy for me to just post the amount of grams for this ingredient, the amount of grams for that, amount of tablespoons, teaspoons. I just convert it to that, really. And even then, like, I don't have it to a perfect tea. Like, I ain't got a scale in my house where I just slap a bit of honey and just weigh it. Like, it just comes from...
Does that take away from you mentally when you have to measure every single thing, or is it just part of the parcel?
Yeah, it does sort of take away from you mentally a little bit. Because obviously when people are cooking, in my culture as well, because you're a Libyan, because I'm a Libyan, I was going to say you're a Libyan, obviously not. But when you're a Libyan or North African, or people from like those type of backgrounds, obviously Asian backgrounds, people don't really weigh out what they're eating. They just slap it in there. They just get like a feel for it, type of thing. So like a auntie or an uncle might slap in a bit of ghee like in their pot. They won't even think twice about it. Which it can have good or bad towards it. Obviously, good in the fact that the food tastes nice. It's put the effort into making that food is put with love and care. And obviously, the downside to it being that it's not really nutritionally accurate towards that individual's needs or whatever. If you're a kid, then yeah, go on, just eat it. But when adults start eating more and more of that type of food, and the more quantity they have of that food, that's when obesity comes in, overweight, obviously diabetes and stuff like that comes in as well. You know, all of those non-communicable diseases. Yeah. And then people now start blaming it on the food they're eating as opposed to how much they're eating. Yeah. And yeah, that's where the problem really comes. It's just a misunderstanding of that. But yeah.
I had a debate with one of my friends, and this was bugging me for ages. Do you think salt is healthy? Because I always say it has potassium, and potassium's a good kind of... gives energy to your heart, and without your heart, like if your heart doesn't work, then you're not going to work. Is salt like healthy enough to eat? Because I put a lot of my food.
It depends how much. Obviously, well, salt's sodium, really, for the start.
Sodium.
Potassium. Yeah. Potassium's obviously like found in other foods and stuff like that. So they're sort of main electrolytes that you need. Obviously, the electrolyte. I've made a video on it as well. Obviously, the 3 different types. Electrolytes are obviously there to maintain cell health. I don't know if that's the proper word for it, but obviously your cells need fuel, they need energy, well, not really energy, but they need something to sustain them. Obviously, same way your muscles do, same way your hearts, same way your lungs do as well. Everything's sort of made, your whole body's sort of made up of cells, and electrolytes obviously keep those cells alive, keep them functioning and working. So yeah, sodium has its place. Obviously, eating too much of it, or eating too much of anything, really is gonna be a detriment to your health. So I'd advise if people don't know what the recommendations are, probably either one, search it up on Google, obviously, because they usually have normal daily intakes from person to for like the daily recommended intake for like a certain population. The only issue is that's for set populations, and obviously every person is different, and has nutritional needs different to one another. So some people might be deficient in a certain vitamin. Some people might be obviously overweight. They're insulin sensitive or whatever the problems may be. So they might need more of one thing, add another, might take this one out. So it's hard to just go off of base recommendations, which is what I used to do anyways. I used to go off of obviously 2,000 calories. That's what everyone eats to cut weight, blah, blah, blah. I used to do that, didn't shred a single thing. And then when I started to tailor it down to what I needed to do, I had to cut more calories down, and from that, like, I started to cut more and more weight, but then my energy was going low, so I had to keep balancing. So it was more of a trial and error, and what I want to do is make that trial and error easier for everyone based on the experiences that I've had. So obviously, again, ties into why I did the content creating. But with sodium, you don't. It's obviously a slippery slope with it because it's sort of easy to overindulge in it because some people might be sensitive or not that sensitive to the taste of salt, so they might flick more and more and they might pour all of it out. But as long as if it gets to that point where you're eating too much salt because you can't taste it enough, then I'd recommend sort of measuring it out. I'd go further down into it. But for people who just need a bit of salt in their food and stuff like that, like a couple sprinkles really will be fine. And other than that, just being aware of what foods have certain electrolytes and stuff like that, what they're heavy in, what they're not heavy in, and then obviously add that to the amount of sodium that you're eating, and then you shouldn't overindulge in it too much.
And on your boxing, when I seen you left boxing and the reason, I absolutely loved the reason because it's like a step back and it's like an observation, and we were talking about it earlier, critical and very intellectual, honest conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
What was the conversation like when you rang your mum and you told her, and what was the conversation with yourself like?
So I didn't ring my mum and tell her. She at the time I decided she was in Sheffield with me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was a face-to-face type thing. So when obviously I was preparing, so I just had a great season last season. Obviously, like I had 8 bouts, won 6 of them. Obviously won a box cup and all that. So in a perspective of like a career-wise, I was at an all-time high.
Yeah.
So this was the best I was doing, and I couldn't wait to get to the next one. And then obviously, as I've been in Sheffield, I've gotten a lot more closer to my religion. More being obviously because I've had more free time now, because it's more time that I can control anyways. Because obviously a student, living by yourself, so I obviously just used the time that I had. And I said, yeah, I want to get close to my religion. This is what my mum would want. She'd want me to get closer to this. And then I was doing that as I was boxing, and then as a sort of side effect type thing, like everything that's not good for you is what we call it haram in the religion of Islam. Everything that's been ordained that you shouldn't do or you should avoid doing, you sort of, as you follow the religion, as you get closer to it, you start to sort of stray away from those things that have been pushed away from you, purely because you're upsetting obviously the one who created you, which is what we believe to be God. But you're sort of like, he sees what you're doing, he knows that you're doing bad things and whatnot, and obviously that's my phone anyway. And obviously that sort of feeling doesn't sit right with you as a Muslim, or someone that's striving to be a better Muslim. And then to tie that into obviously boxing just last season, like it was going good and all that, but then as the years went by, this was something that it was a yearly thing. Obviously, like the more and more that I had to box other Muslims as well, which again is harm as well. Like imagine striking people in the face of your brethren. Like these Muslims and like obviously boxing. This is why I don't really like boxing as much, or even these combat sports, is because you've got Muslims and you've got people that are meant to believe that we're connected as a brotherhood, not even just like a friendship. Like we want what's best for each other as Muslims. Like you want for your brother better for what you want for yourself, type thing. And because of that, and because of the boxing really, and MMA and stuff like that, and because people want to chase belts, people want to chase glory, the same way that people want to chase any other materialistic thing.
Yeah, money, clothes,
exactly. It's all this,
women.
It's all the same thing. Like people don't realise it now, because they think now you have to work hard for it, and now because you have to, you have to put effort in, sweat in and all that, and because people, find it honourable, one-on-one type thing. Yeah. They've completely disregarded what God said. And they're like, no, this is my dream, this is my passion, blah, 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 this. And then now you've got two Muslims, you've now got people that don't follow the Sharia, they don't follow the Sharia, they don't follow the law ordained by Allah. And then what they do is they just start boxing each other for the sake of glory and stuff like that. Yeah. Which most Muslim boxers that I know, obviously they can suppress it within them. And I'm not saying that it's bad for them like to do. I mean, obviously if you ask me, like boxing's bad for any Muslim to do. Like I wouldn't recommend doing it, but I'm not going to treat anyone differently. Like I'm still going to go and support or whatever, purely because I care for them. But yeah, so with these type of like affairs and stuff like that, it's obviously best to stay away from them, purely because it gets you into things like boxing other Muslims and stuff like that, boxing people that you're meant to call your brothers, you're meant to call your family, people that you treat as your family, and next thing you know, you're scrapping them for money. You're scrapping them for this glory that you want. That really and truly is not. Neither is it going to bring you closer to God, but it's also not gonna show up in a good light when you face God Himself. Like you're not gonna bring your belts with you. You're not gonna bring your money with you in front of Him, because He's not gonna ask you those questions. He's gonna ask you, have you been worshipping me? Have you been doing this? If not, yeah, or if so, then you you get, it's either a heaven or hell type thing.
Yeah, and was there a specific Quran verse or a specific hadith, or was it a kind of thought over time and you were looking at it as a whole?
So it wasn't a specific verse or hadith. It was more of a because Allah obviously ordained it, or the hadith obviously told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think, I'm not sure which narration it is, but he told his brethren who were fighting to avoid the face.
Yeah.
Because they used to wrestle in the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to wrestle in the mosques and all that, in the masajid, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him to just avoid the face, avoid striking the face. And obviously that, plus the interpretations of scholars, because we don't take our religion in the base of what we interpret verses are.
Yeah.
You then follow. You have to follow the interpretations of people who have studied it for years and years and years, and people who are on the right path. Obviously, first of all, because there's different sects and all that. Again, I don't want to sort of get into that because I'm not too knowledgeable of it, but you follow what they believe, or what they believe to interpret from those verses, because it all has a chain of narration and it goes up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you can't just look at a hadith or a verse in the Quran and say, I'm going to interpret it this way. I'm going to interpret
You're
it this
busy,
way.
man.
No, I don't know. It's my family just messaging, but yeah, you can't just interpret certain things. You have to go to scholars, people who've studied the religion for years, and get what they say on it.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, and from what the consensus of the scholars have said, that the striking of the face is made haram. Obviously, based on the hadith and based on the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And obviously, because of that, obviously I disregarded it. I was sensitive to it at the time when I first came to uni, when I first started boxing. Like, obviously my mum was telling me, like, my mum obviously has a big play in it as well, because she was telling me not to do it, this. Obviously I kept going, and then the closer and closer I got to religion, the more and more I sort of yearned for more knowledge of being a Muslim, and like being attached to my brothers, because I found a lot of Muslim brothers here in Sheffield as well, Masjid Huda, and obviously those guys helped me out like so much. Not only that, like, they showed me different parts of Islam. They showed me that there's obviously splitting of the Ummah and all that, different sects and whatnot. And so they sort of go to different lessons throughout the UK. And I couldn't go to them because of boxing.
Oh,
so
yeah. So
now we've got a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do boxing, or either I want to go to these lessons, but I can't do both. So I can't strive closer to God and I can't strive closer to boxing at the same time.
Yeah.
So one has to give at some point if I'm striving for something. Now, at the time, it was striving to be a better boxer. But as I started to hang out more and more with these type of crowds and whatnot, people that boosted my religion, the boxing sort of reduced down a bit, to the point where now when I'm sparring my gym mates, people that I care about, and when I'm sparring them, when I'm hitting them in the head, it starts to have an effect on you.
Yeah.
Type thing. And I'm like, okay, this isn't right. Like, it doesn't feel right either. Like, I'm sparring, not even that, like, I'm fighting two of my gym mates. And one of them's Muslim as well, so one of them is one that I live with. That doesn't sit right with me personally, like, in my heart. And that was sort of the beginning of the end type thing. And it was a sparring match after a run, after sessions. Like, I was basically trying to, basically killing myself for training. Like, I was training, three times a day. I was doing that for, 5-6 days a week. And it's just a continuous effort all the time. And then at one point, I was like, okay, obviously I understand that it requires discipline, it requires certain effort to be great in something, but what am I doing it for?
Yeah.
Is this going to benefit me in the hereafter at all? Is this going to benefit me as a better Muslim? When I have kids, do I even want them to box? Obviously I told myself no. And because that answer was no, and because everything else was no, I just made it. It was at that point that I was like, alright, no, that's it, I can't really keep competing anymore. So I told my mum when I came back home from a run or whatever, told my brother, and then I told my mum, and she was happy as well, she was over the moon about it and all that. And then a month later, a month and a bit later, when I was training and stuff like that, I just told my coaches that I was like, yeah, I don't want to sort of do this anymore. Like, this isn't my type of thing. Obviously for religious reasons, and everyone else sort of knew about it. And then, but for as far as like reactions went, it was amazing. Like, support was brilliant.
Yeah.
For it, and not only that. Now, obviously, as a Muslim, we believe that anything that you leave for the sake of Allah, Allah will replace it with something better for you.
Yeah.
And now I started this nutrition thing in August, and it's now November. And not only that, like, I've gained a massive traction in it for that short amount of time. Not only that, like, I've made connections with different influencers and stuff like that. People that I didn't think that I'd ever meet, really, or people that I'd never thought I'd actually like do content with or speak with about this. But I am, so already it's sort of taken flight in terms of content creating, and plus I love doing it, and I'm not, displeasing Allah anymore. So it's just that type of it's that type of feeling that's sort of heartwarming to you when you
and there's no
follow
feeling
religion.
like it. There's nothing that can come close when you know you're following your religion.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the thing. Obviously, when you know you're on the right path, you know that really none of these sort of affairs really matter at all, because we're all going to die. Well, obviously, as a Muslim, we all believe we're all going to die. We're all going to see the same person. We're all going to meet the same entity face to face. And the last thing you want testifying for you, or like saying that you've done this, is all your glory, all your WBC, WBA belts, all your medals that you've come through and stuff like that you've done from displeasing Allah and going against His order and stuff like that, disobeying. Yeah, that's the word I was trying to think of. But yeah.
And now, are you still doing coaching? Are you still, because I know there's a Hallam Fasti event.
I'm not an actual coach, but I just help out the gym basically. So I'm obviously from, I train at Sheffield City Boxing Club. Obviously, what Brennan, what all the coaches have done for me, like, obviously to me they're all just family there. Yeah. Like, I don't really see them as friends. Anyone that walks through that door is, we're instantly like a sort of family. Like, whatever's mine is yours type thing. Yeah. And I've just had that. I've grown that connection so well in the past 3 years that I've been here with everyone at the gym, that I just wanted to put my 2 cents in and help out. So obviously Brendan Warburton, which is the head coach there at the gym, he wanted me to get obviously my level 1 coaching badge sorted. Yeah. So I can coach some of the people, and I did it anyways. But I don't want to now start coaching other gyms or like other people and stuff like that. Like the only reason I did it was to just help out the gym. Yeah. But as far as coaching goes, like, I put that to the side. Like,
is it expensive? Because I know people who are trying to get their UEFA B license, and they, like, in England it's so expensive to get your coaching badges. How is it in boxing?
It's not that expensive. I'm not sure I think it's about £50 to £100. I'm not too sure, because it was paid for by the boxing gym, but it's not that serious with it, because obviously amateur boxing in the UK don't really get funded that much by the government. Yeah. And because of that, obviously officials work for free. They do it. People just volunteer their work and all that. So it's not that expensive to obviously be a coach. And even then, like, the criteria to actually being a level 1 coach or whatever is still a bit shit. You got people that are level 1 coaches that haven't got a clue about boxing, don't know how to teach boxing really. They just know how to hold pads. Basically, fitness coaches more or less. You can't really tell the difference. You can't really distinguish them between coaches that you see or PTs that you see at Virgin Active or like all these JD gyms and stuff like that. Yeah. You can't really differentiate those type of coaches from them. So, the barrier to entry is like pretty low when it comes to being a coach England boxing coach.
And which one are you preferring? Are you preferring the nutrition side of it, or do you also miss the boxing?
Definitely the nutrition. Obviously, if you ask me if I miss the boxing, yeah, definitely. Like, I do. Obviously, like every time I see the people, every time I see my brothers go out there to box, people like all of my gym mates and stuff like that, going out there in the ring to like fight, it brings that sort of that passion in there with me that never actually left me really. Yeah. But because I had to make that decision, obviously it's hard for me, type thing. So the feeling's obviously still there, but the feeling's mutual. Obviously, yeah, nutrition is something that I want to go deep into. Like, obviously boxing, like I said, someone that didn't want to, like, I can see all of, like, when I see all my friends and stuff like that boxing in the ring and stuff like that, it does bring that fire out of me again. Yeah. Like that passion that I had for it. But obviously, that, like I said, the feeling's mutual. I don't have that sort of inclination to now go into the ring again and start scrapping it out with people anymore. Because for me, I'm fulfilled now. Like, I've got the nutrition stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I've got something to actually work towards, that I can put all of my discipline, all of my, you know, hard work, all of the lessons that I've learnt from boxing, from training. I can now put that effort into my nutrition, into helping out other amateur boxers, not just that, but helping out other people, like other athletes as well, that are in need of nutritional help, or other people that are also in need of that sort of help as well.
In terms of your career in boxing and nutrition, what's the biggest lesson you've learned?
What, from boxing and nutrition?
From either or, yeah.
Biggest lesson I've learned. Good question. The biggest lesson I've learned is to stop comparing myself to other people. I think that, and I've learned that from boxing, really. But the reason I'm saying that is, when I used to spar, I used to or when I'd get beat up in sparring, which happened a lot, like more than you think. But when I used to get beat up and stuff like that, I'd sort of had this like feeling that, all right, these boxers are now better than me. They always will be better than me. And there's always going to be that line there that I'll never be able to cross past. And that happened even when I was back in my old boxing club as well.
Yeah.
But what I've managed to sort of learn with it, like as I got more and more better in boxing, and I started to overtake those kind of people there that used to be better than me, or that used to be this. I only just realised that it really is just sort of you versus yourself anyway. So it doesn't matter what position that you're in at that point in time. You know, as long as you're on that right path, and as long as you're striving to become better in whatever craft you want to be in, like that's all that matters really. You'll end up overtaking people that don't put in as much effort as you do, which eventually might happen to some people. Some people might find different careers and this like that. But eventually, like, it will all show at the end of the day. Like, if you've put X amount of effort into one path and all that, and one direction, then you're obviously going to get better. The fruits of your labour are going to show, regardless. But yeah, that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned from.
I could easily interview you for like 3 hours, like a whole Joe Rogan podcast, but they only give me a limited time in this room.
Here's 3 nutrition tips to feed your cat. And I've got my brother's cat here. His name's Lucas. Say hi. Meow. Meow. Yeah, he doesn't want to say hi. Oh yeah, and I'm doing nutrition for animals now. Price went up.